there, I am Gary Parrish. Welcome back to CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Former Clemson standout turned media star Terrence Oglesby going to join me here momentarily. If you watch it on YouTube, honor Brandon Davies. The only way that would make sense. Smash the like button. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the Eye on College Basketball podcast, please do that wherever you subscribe to pods like Apple and Spotify. Let's get into it. Today we are continuing our 2026 Summer Shootaround series. This is episode 9, and we are turning our attention to Rick Barnes' Tennessee Vols. Before we look ahead with T.O., let's do a quick recap. Tennessee last season finished 25-12, 11-7 in the SEC, got a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament, beat Wally's Redhawks, then Virginia, then Iowa State to advance to the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament. Then they ran into Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines. You might remember how that went. Smacked them around, lost by 33 points. Season over for the Vols right then, one victory short of what would have been the program's first trip to the Final Four. From that team, they lost just about everybody, most notably Jacoby Gillespie and Nate Ament, but they are bringing back a rotation piece in Dwayne Brown, and the recruiting class is super strong through the transfer portal. They've got additions like Juke Harris, Terrence Hill Jr., and Jalen Washington. Right now, I've got Tennessee 15th in the top 25-1. Is that too high, too low, or just about right? I'm going to ask T.O. next, but first, real quick, let's get a word from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
JJ, we appreciate your time breaking it down.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With the plays you missed.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And analysis to give you an edge.
All we need is 20 points.
I was shaking in my boots.
Texas, Ohio State, who wins this game?
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
All right, T.O., I appreciate you being here. Let me start with this, because I was doing some reading last night. I know the basics of your story. Born in Norway, raised in Tennessee, all-time leading scorer at Bradley Central High in Cleveland, Tennessee, which is like 80 miles southwest of Knoxville. I was reading last night, found a story from the Chattanoogan. John Scherer was the writer, and he quoted you as saying Tennessee was about the one SEC school at a high school that didn't really prioritize you or recruit you. Why did Bruce Pearl not want you? Because did he pick Dane Bradshaw over you? What happened?
Dane was older than me.
Okay.
Dane was older than me. You know, it was a weird deal because what would have been my freshman year, I think, was Chris Lofton's like senior year, and Juwan, they had a guy named Juwan Smith who's also from Cleveland. He went to a different high school a little bit further north, but it was one of those things where I was going to have to sit regardless. Just because I'm not going to play in front of senior year Chris Lofton. I know he had some things he was going through. You're not playing in front of Chris Lofton. Chris Lofton is Chris Lofton. That dude's name in Knoxville area is like, you know how this goes. So I wanted to play right away. They had an assistant named Tony Jones who just didn't like me. He just didn't like me. Like Scott Edgar, a guy who was there, liked me a lot. Steve Forbes liked me a lot. And I think Bruce liked my game too. It was Tony Jones, who was a bonehead who continues to who continues to not be around, who pretty much basically struck that one through. But no, I grew up. You know, it's funny. I went to Bradley Central, which is 80 miles down 75.
Okay.
I grew up right off of Straw Plains Pike, which is, when I tell you 10 minutes from campus, it's 10, 15 minutes from campus. There's an Oglesby Road right there outside of Knoxville. And then Dandridge, Tennessee, where I went to middle school, is right up the road from there. So, born and bred East Tennessee guy, but ended up going to Clemson, and now I reside in Carolina. So, but it's a good place. I will always be somewhat of a Tennessee fan, especially come football season. And I'm telling you, and you know this too, being a Tennessee guy, I know you're in Memphis on the other side of the state, whatever. There's not a whole lot like Thompson Bowling. I know it's Food City Center or whatever you want to call it. It's Thompson Bowling.
There you go.
That place is incredible. The football arena is incredible. And there's not a fan base like Tennessee in my mind.
No, it's terrific. And I was thinking through this when I was a kid growing up in the Memphis area. It was not Tennessee football mattered immensely everywhere. Tennessee basketball didn't really resonate outside of Knoxville, if it resonated in Knoxville much at all. I really do think Bruce took it to a new level. It was very normal when I was a kid for you'd bump into somebody and they'd say, I love Tennessee football and I love Memphis basketball. In this part of the state, Memphis football didn't really matter and Tennessee basketball didn't really matter. And people latched on to Tennessee football and Memphis basketball. And obviously through the years that has changed. I don't think you'd hear anybody say that now. Tennessee basketball matters immensely on that campus throughout the state. And Bruce obviously took it to, a historically great level, and Rick Barnes has kept it up there. I mean, I know it got off to a little bit of a slow start with Rick in Knoxville, but since he got it going with Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield, like that team, once he earned it, never really turned it back around. He's been one of the most consistent winners in the sport since he got that thing headed in the right direction.
Well, he's had a brand of basketball that's resonated ever since he was at Clemson way back when, and Providence before that. And it took him a second to get his kind of guy. You know, Admiral Schofield was his kind of guy. Grant Williams was his kind of guy. But I think one consistent with Rick Barnes is the defense is always going to be great, and the offense is going to be slow enough for the defense to keep him in it. So that's what's interesting about this team coming up is, man, there's a lot of firepower offensively. That's kind of like when you look at this roster.
Yes.
And in my mind, you said you had him at 15.
Yeah.
I would in that 10 to 15 range, I think is certainly deserved. I'm a big puzzle piece guy. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I like how people fit together. I don't see that with this roster. What I felt like happened is let's get the best players we could possibly get, and I'll just make it work.
There you go.
Is that kind of what you see with this upcoming group?
I'm glad you took it this direction, and I've got them 15th in the top 25 and 1. I will say, and this happens every year with a couple of teams when we dive into these episodes, and I really get in there deeper than I was previously, right? Every year I go, ooh, I think I might have this team a little too low or a little too high. Yeah. But once I deep dive on it, I see things a little differently than I might have when I was putting together version 22 of the top 25 and 1. Mm. My point is with this team, I looked at it, dove in, and I was like, I think I got them too low. They have so much offensive firepower. And my initial takeaway just from the roster construction is yeah, we can debate and discuss how the pieces fit together, but they've got a lot of really good pieces. They got, I think, 7 dudes that could reasonably start. 6 of them are transfers, and 5 of the 6 averaged at least 15 points per game last season. So when I'm looking at this, we'll see how it comes together. I don't love that they basically back one player, one rotation piece. I don't love that. If you believe in roster continuity, this ain't that. Mm-hmm. But there's so many, not just talented pieces, but talented offensive pieces that if you can just get the stuff that a Rick Barnes Tennessee team has been able to bring to the table, regardless of who's in the uniform, over the past several years, they're going to be tough. They're going to fight you. They're going to guard you. You just bring that physicality. That's just going to be a staple of your team. And then you have the offensive firepower, so you don't go through these lulls where you don't have to try to win a game in the 50s. Now you got something that looks like, to me, I'm not putting this expectation on them, but if somebody told me, this is going to be the first ever UT team to make it to a Final Four, that's not a crazy thing to me. They've got the talent in place.
That's where I'm at too. And the more you look at it, it's you have some guards that can get into the paint with Day-Day Ames and Terrence Hill from VCU, who I don't know who runs the point for this team. How do you approach that? But that hasn't really been a thing. Barnes has always had 2 guards masquerading as their one. I know Gillespie was a pure point per se, but Vescovy and I would even consider what's our guy's name? Zakai Ziegler more of a 2 because he was mentally more inclined to shoot it or take a deep shot or create something for himself. He's always functioned in that way. I do like the offensive piece in terms of you get all these guys that average a lot of points, but their percentages are pretty good. The only person whose percentages aren't great is Juke Harris, and it's because he had to do a lot at Wake Forest. But you bring together all those guys, and it's a lot of the things that work really well. It's the size, it's the length. This Jalen Harrelson kid that's coming from Notre Dame. Right. What are you going to do with him? Because he is a rim attack dude. Are you going to make him a defensive player? And he was just okay on that end at Notre Dame. Of course, all freshmen are just okay on that end, but sans a couple people. But all this offense, but they have the bodies to be able to compete if he can get them to play defense. And I have no doubt that Rick Barnes is going to be able to get them to play defense. I'm optimistic on that front.
Well, that's the thing. Like you look at the shooting, Terrence Hill was 37% from three on 6.1 attempts per game. That's quality percentage, high volume. Love that. Tyler Lundblad, the transfer from Belmont, reigning MVC player of the year. Now, he's had a back injury this offseason that's kept him sidelined quite a bit. The expectation is that he'll be fine for the season, but he's missed time, clearly. So we'll see what that does. But he shot above 40% from three on 8.8 attempts per game.
Yeah.
So Rick's got a lot of different options. Like I said, I think you got 7 players that could reasonably start for a good top 25 power 4 team. I think you got 7 of those guys. And so they can go small, go big, emphasize shooting, emphasize front court physicality. But if you just decide you want to go Hill Lundblad, I mean, that's 2 high volume 3-point shooters, 37% and above. Yeah. I mean, that's a great place to start if you know you're going to be physically dominant, or at least the defense stuff's going to be there. Now you got shooting. Now you got offense and scoring. And you're right with Juke Harris. Like, he took a bunch, 7.5 per game from three, and only made 33% of them. I think he took 7.5 and made 2.5 on average. That's got to be better. But that's probably
the majority of his, though, in his defense. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I tend to do this, so GP, I'm sorry.
Hey, there are times I need to be interrupted. Trust me.
Right. Well, here, like, the thing with Juke is a lot of his 3-point attempts, jab step, stepping back, doing all. Like, he's an individual shot creator.
Right.
But then, like, I like the versatility in how you can attack offensively too. Like, you're alluding to it. You can go different lineups. You can have high volume 37 and 38% guys. You can run screens away from the ball with Lundblad and Hill at times. But you can also set somebody up by himself on a wing with Juke Harris or Jalen Harrelson, or you need somebody to get to the free throw line when things get stagnant. Harrelson can be that. There's just a lot of different weapons. My biggest concern is, and it seems to be a concern every single year with Rick Barnes' team, is everybody drops percentage-wise when they go to the Vols. And I don't know what it is. And I do think a certain amount of it is coaches really hang their hat on one end of the floor or one part of the game, and sometimes you give up other parts of the game.
Sure. And
Barnes has been consistent in that. Outside of having a guy or two every now and then that can just kind of bust through the seams, whether it's a Dalton Connect.
Right.
I don't know I don't know that they necessarily have a Dalton Connect because he was so dynamic, but they have a lot of guys that can score in a lot of different ways, and that's why it's so intriguing for me.
And you would know this better than I because, like, you were in the practices. But, I've sat on the side of the court and watched the practices, and you talk to coaches about this, and they'll say, hey, there's only so many hours in the day. You need to work on the things you need to work on. And a lot of coaches will spend weeks on the defensive end of the court before they ever start working on offensive stuff. So sometimes that can be lacking. With Juke Harris, my larger point was he averaged 21.4 points per game last season and shot poor percentages, but I think that those points per game is going to come down. The number of attempts per game is going to come down. And I would bet, despite what a pattern might be within that program, I would bet he's going to be somebody whose percentages go up just because he's going to take fewer shots and better shots. I would think.
One would assume. I think the intriguing thing about Juke Harris, when he came into school, he was like 6'5". He grew into his sophomore year. I'd be curious to know or to see him in a Vol uniform if he's grown any more. Because, like, if he has grown some more, he's pushing 6'8", 6'9". And then, like, you could play some 4 with him at that spot. And then you really have options. But you're right. I mean, the thing with Tennessee, they're going to focus on the defensive end and they're going to muck it up a little bit. I just like the ability to throw so many different guys on the floor that might be able to score. And they didn't give up their, like, this kid, the Furman kid from Christian Furman that transferred from VCU, he knows what he is. He didn't play a whole lot for Martelli last year. That's not indicative of the kind of player he is. Prior to that, he was averaging over 2 blocks a game every year. So they still have the pieces that give them their identity. Braden Liu, a kid came from Kennesaw State, very much in that same vein. So, like, they still got their culture guys. But at the same time, it's just, to me, let's just stockpile offense and I'll just make it happen and I'll make them play defense. And if they can make them do that, like, they lost. I want to say they lost to Duke in the tournament. Please help me out here. Who they lose to in the tournament just because I don't have it in front of me?
Tennessee?
Tennessee, yeah.
Michigan.
Michigan. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course they lost to
Yeah.
Michigan. Everybody lost to Michigan. Sorry, but
Everybody lost to Michigan.
Yeah, brain fart of all time. But I don't think you see games this year where they get stuck in the 40s. If that's the case this year, and they have these 5 and 6 minute scoring droughts, I'm not sure it's on the players.
Yeah, they've got too many guys who score too many points to get stuck in the 40s and 50s, I would assume. Like that, to me, that would be the most encouraging thing if I'm a Tennessee fan. I've watched some of these teams in recent years be theoretically good enough to try to get where we're trying to go, which is the Final Four for the first time in program history. But you just always worried about the offense just disappearing for too many minutes in a row. And in a single elimination tournament, like that 7-minute drought can end your season. And I just don't think how about this? We'll see. But this roster seems like it's best equipped of any of Rick's recent rosters to avoid that type of stuff. Maybe they don't have one dynamic, just go get me a bucket guy like Dalton Connect.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think 5 guys who averaged more than 15 points per game last season. They've got guys who can put the ball in the bucket. Let's pause here for a second just to touch on something that's been a topic in the sport. I always like when we do these summer shoot-around series, we get locked into a schedule and then like other things are happening and we sort of just ignore that and we'll get to it later. But I think we can combine both things here. My point is this. Tennessee did just add a big in, the past week or so in Jalen Washington, the transfer from Vanderbilt. A lot of schools are doing this after the fifth-year guys got an injunction, sort of a blanket waiver to be eligible. Obviously, the NCAA is pushing back on this. We'll see where it goes. But as of right now, there's a bunch of fifth-year guys who are eligible. And everybody from Gonzaga to Arizona to Tennessee to Louisville are taking advantage.
Louisville got one this morning. Yeah.
Louisville got one this morning and said Trimble. So Jalen Washington is the example here. Played at Vanderbilt, gets eligible, commits to Tennessee within the past week. As a former player, because I've heard this from coaches, some coaches say, I'm trying to make my team better, and if I can, I will. And I've had other coaches say, I know a player like Seth Trimble on August 12th might make my roster better. Got it. But if I bring him in now, I'm messing up my locker room. I'm demoting somebody else. I'm creating a problem that I'd rather just not create. I'm going to skip it. You were in locker rooms. How would this play? You've been together all summer. You're getting ready. You think you know your role on a team, and then it's August. A judge makes a ruling somewhere, and your coach, who's been telling you you're the guy this whole time, is now just enrolled somebody who's probably going to take your starting spot.
I think the dynamic right now is just so much different than it was. Like if you're getting paid $1.5 million and they bring in another guy who's getting paid $2-3 million, like, okay, beat him.
Yeah,
that's kind of where it's at now. Another thing too is we're still a long way away from the season. I know it's like 85 days or something. I don't know what it is, but we're still a long way away from the season. Like we would have guys when I played at Clemson who was absolutely the best player on the floor during the summer. Yeah. And then we would show up to game time and he would not be the best player on the floor when push came to shove. So as far as I'm concerned, everybody's on 1-year deals.
There you go.
Like everybody's on 1-year deals. Show up, do your job, and just kind of move forward. As long as the check's clear, I'm not really sure that a player has the ability to really give you any feedback in a negative sort. Like, I brought you in to do a job. I need you to do that job, and then we'll move forward. As far as bringing in Jalen Washington, I feel like adding a front court piece that can space the floor for you, give you something a little bit different, has that size, been in the SEC. To me, that's a no-brainer, especially if you have a spot. And I've always been an advocate, man, like the rules keep changing. Play with, be really good with the rules that you're given.
Right.
And I don't see anything wrong with what's going on.
I think I'm with you. There was a time where I would be like, I don't know, like it seems like dirty business a little bit. But at this point, these are jobs. These aren't just like hobbies. These are jobs, and you signed a contract not to be the starting power forward or starting center at a place. I don't assume. You signed a contract to play basketball at a place, and this coach's job is to build the best basketball team he can. And because of this unusual year with these unusual rulings and the calendar's goofy, this is just a situation that's here. It's maybe not ideal for everybody. but I feel like at some point everybody's got to do what's best for them. So if you're the fifth year player who just got eligible and there's more money for you in college than there is in the professional ranks, you should be trying to come back to college. And if you're a college basketball coach getting paid millions of dollars, try to win college basketball games. If you think there's a player out there you can add right now who can help you do that in your head, you should probably do that. And if you're somebody who's on the wrong side of that, in other words, the player who thought you might start at center for Tennessee and now you might not, well, then that's just the way life works, I guess. Maybe it's a good lesson to learn when you're 21 as opposed to 31, because eventually that's a lesson you might have to learn in the real work world. You think you're this, and then they bring somebody in right next to you who might take your job. That's something all of us will probably run into sometime.
Hey, man, that's what this is. That's what this is. And another thing, too, I might be a little cynical when it comes to this because I played in Europe for a long time where they would just fly a dude in for a week just to see if he was better than you.
Right.
and then like I would be playing, I played in the G League, which was a really tough year for me. And Russ Smith would like show up 35 minutes before tip, eating a box of chicken tenders, play 46 minutes on a night that I thought I was supposed to get minutes. Hey, man. And I wasn't getting paid in the G League. Another thing, like it's almost unfair to be against the player, and I know you're not. I'm just speaking in generality here, but like an Exhibit 10's like $100,000 or south of. Like if you can go back to college for one more year, live a college lifestyle, and make $3 million, what do you? I mean, like it's irresponsible on your part not to take that and go back to school. So
it would be foolish not to do it.
It would be foolish.
I don't blame anybody. Like everybody's doing what's best for them under these circumstances that they did not create. I don't know that any single character in these stories asked for any of this, but this is the reality, and I think everybody's just doing the best they can, and I don't have any complaints. And you're exactly right. I talked to agents at NBA Summer League who were like, I've got a player right now, he's on this Summer League roster, he's playing for this NBA franchise's Summer League team. They will offer him an Exhibit 10 just as soon as Summer League's over, but they were waiting on these rulings. And this is what I heard from an agent. How can I tell my player to sign an Exhibit 10 for $100,000 when all we need is one judge to give a blanket waiver and I got a $2 million contract from a Big 12 school? Like
shout out Micah Handlockton.
There you go. Right.
Like it's just like he would be ridiculous in order to take something like that while not waiting. So it's put the NBA in limbo too a little bit too now. Sure. Like it's interesting all the way around. But I to be honest with you, to go back to your original question, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy there. Like you sign a contract to play, you're a professional now. You get, and here's the cool part about being a professional is you can have a full-time job getting paid $3 million while still going to school. I don't know how many other professions will let you do that.
No,
not many.
I mean, this is while everybody's talking about the chaotic nature of college basketball, I would just bottom line it this way. There has never been a better time to be a college basketball player. Never. You can, if you are committed to just being like, this is the next guy I'm fascinated to see their career unfold. Like a top 10 high school recruit who is physically limited in a way where they're just not on NBA radars like that. Like if Tyler Hansborough,
sure,
somebody who could always go to the NBA, but was never going to be a top 5 pick. Right. Because he's, for all the reasons, he was just never going to be a top 5 pick. If that guy just decides, I'm going to do 5 years of college basketball, I'm picking my school and I'm doing 5 years. This is very normal. You could leave school with a college degree.
Two. You can leave school with 2 college degrees.
Like think about this. You can leave school with 2 college degrees.
Yeah.
And I don't even think this is an exaggeration. $50 million maybe. If you were that kind of player, by the end of it, somebody's going to pay you $12 million. You could, no student debt, no debt, 2 college degrees, and $40 or $50 million. You can walk out of college with that. You don't even have to be have to be an NBA prospect to be worth $20 million. You could make $20 million in college without ever being an NBA prospect.
I'm not bitter at all.
No, I mean, I sometimes look at these older NBA players, guy who's like 60, and it's like if you just had your exact same career right now, you'd have $150 million in the bank, and you might have $150,000 in the bank. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, just playing at the right time that could be a real moneymaker.
Think about like Randolph Childress.
I mean, yes,
good. I mean, like my God.
Yes.
He just, I mean, it's. I'm jealous. I would have never left school early.
I
Like that's the truth.
I
Like
am at the point now. Everybody could do whatever they want, but if I were advising a young person, unless you're a top 10 pick, I mean, guaranteed top 10, nobody's arguing. I'd stay in school as long as I can. It's more fun. You're gonna have more fun. Like, once you become a real professional, the odds of you if you're the best player on a college basketball team, unless you're Kevin Durant or somebody like that, the odds of you ever being the best player on an NBA team are very small, very small. The best years of your most enjoyable basketball years are probably going to be those great college years. I'd maximize them, make tens of millions of dollars, and then I'd get to the NBA whenever I needed to get there. But unless they were telling me I'm a top 10 pick, I'd say y'all can wait for me. I'm gonna sit down here and have the most fun playing college basketball for lots of money.
Well, I mean, you saw it with all the early entries. Like what were there 70 this year, and they were like up in the 300-400s.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's just smart business.
It's smart business. The place to be right now is, unless you're a top 10 pick, the place to be right now is college basketball, probably. Yep. Let's get back to Tennessee. I've got them 4th in the SEC behind Florida, Texas, and Arkansas. Like I said, 15th in the top 25 and 1. Let's run through the schedule, predict some records heading into the SEC tournament. They got exhibitions with Xavier in Knoxville and Duke in Durham. And then after that, they're going to open on November 3rd at home against Wofford. We're not going to run you through the whole non-league schedule, but here's the big games. November 17th, Michigan State at home. That'll be a fun time inside Thompson Bowling. 72-year-old Rick Barnes, 71-year-old Tom Izzo, still operating at the tip-top of the sport. On November 24th, they're going to be in the Players Era out in Vegas. They open with awesome. They open with Maryland. Then they either play Iowa State or San Diego State. And then that third game could be against a bunch of different teams, anybody from Michigan to Baylor to Alabama to Gonzaga. On December 1st, they come back home, host Florida State in the SEC ACC Challenge. December 6th, NC State, that's at Bridgestone in Nashville. December 11th, they're at Purdue. And then they've got an 18-game SEC schedule. They'll play all the other SEC schools once and then play Kentucky, Missouri, and Vanderbilt, both home and away. Relatively speaking, I think that's a pretty tough home and away, double up. If you got to play 3 teams twice, Kentucky, Mizzou, Vandy's going to skew on the tougher side as opposed to the not-so-tough side. You can add it all up. You know what it looks like. Looks like they're going to have an opportunity to play 32 games before Selection Sunday, 29, I believe, before the SEC tournament. What kind of record you looking at here?
What would we say, 25? Just
so 14 non-league games and 18 league games. So it's going to be 32 total.
32. Before the tournament.
32 total before the SEC tournament. That's right.
Let's go 24-8.
Jesus, this happens every time. I wish I could show my screen. I'm just going to read you exactly what I wrote here. I'll say only 2 losses in the non-league, 1 in the Players Era, 1 at Purdue.
Okay.
I've got 14 non-league games, so I'll say 12-2 in the non-league. Tough SEC schedule, 12-6 in the SEC. So I've got 24-8 heading into the SEC tournament, something like a 3 or 4 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Let's go. That's why. And to be full transparency, I hadn't looked at their schedule. That's me thinking how tough the league is. 1,
right,
and 2, like that non-league is a bear. And first of all, shame on you for not putting Wofford and Kevin Giltner at the very beginning. So somebody talk to Josh. But like we got to throw the Terriers a little love, man. Now, I think 24 is good. It's just that, man, that when you get into SEC play this year, especially, you could flip to me like you had Arkansas 3rd and then Tennessee. I think you could flip-flop them. It could be either one. Texas is loaded. And then, who'd you have before that? Florida. Yeah, Florida, obviously. Yeah, Florida, but like, and then Kentucky's, they're coming. Yeah. So, like, it's one of those things you could flip-flop 3 and 4 for me. But, I mean, 24-8, I mean, you got to be thrilled with that. 3 seed. 3-4 seed, is that what you said? 3 or 4
seed, something like that, and then a chance, at least on paper, I think, to make their first Final Four in program history. It's kind of wild. Like, this is a program that's been ranked number 1 in the country multiple times.
Yep.
It's a program that's been to 4 Elite Eights, been to 12 Sweet 16s. No school's ever been to more Sweet 16s without going to Final Four than Tennessee.
Yeah.
No team, no school has more wins in the NCAA tournament without going to a Final Four than Tennessee. So that's like the big thing that hangs over them. You can reasonably call Tennessee. I know others might argue Missouri, but I think the answer is probably Tennessee at this point. What is the best men's basketball program that's never appeared in a Final Four?
It's got to be there.
It's probably the Tennessee Vols. And this team on paper looks like it's good enough to do it. Don't know that they will, but certainly think they could. And
they added some variability.
Yes.
And what I mean by it goes back to the offense.
Right.
This team added some variability. A lot of teams, and I think it was Todd Golden did an interview a couple years ago, or maybe even this past season. It was like, well, when you get bigger, more physical, you raise your floor.
That's
you
right.
try to get rid of variability. You want to make sure that you take care of what you can control, and then we'll just see what happens on the offensive end of the floor. But we know what's going to be there. That's been the case with Tennessee forever. Now they add some offensive variability. That's why I'm with you. I think they very well could make the Final Four because of that offensive ability and different guys that could get hot at a certain time and different ways you could find offense. You're absolutely right, and I totally agree, despite 8 losses in the regular season.
I remember that quote from Todd. I thought it was really smart. He almost, if I remember correctly, compared it to football. The reason you can see a James Madison be really good, but eventually you run into, say, a Big Ten program, an SEC program, it is because of the physicality up front. You can't match that. And when you can't match that, you can't play football against them. And his point was like, let's take that and translate it to basketball. Let's just physically overwhelm the mid-majors and the low majors, and that will theoretically prevent us from, losing to a St. Peter's or, a something like that. I thought it was really smart. I'd never heard a basketball coach quite put it that way. And Tennessee got that's been the floor at Tennessee for a little while. They can physically overwhelm you. Now I think, they got real offensive versatility. They can play big. They can play small. Rick's got a lot of options, and he could maybe be the man to get Tennessee to its first Final Four and do it for
football reference. It was like a team that had a great line, had a great run game, but they never had a long ball threat. Like somebody you could just throw it. They didn't have a Randy Moss out there. I feel like this team has a couple of guys that could get things going.
That's right.
And not just one.
Yeah. They got plenty of options, offensive versatility. It should be a fun team to watch. Let's call it a show. T.O., I appreciate you being here. If you're not following him on X, make sure you're doing that at @T_Oglesby22. You can, of course, find him on Hornets games. I find you all the time on Hornets games. And, of course, podcasting over with our buddies, Field of 68. That's the show. Shout out to Devin Downey, Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle, he's a legend. Huck Larnell, Harmoose. Go subscribe to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast anywhere you subscribe to pods, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.